The battlefield was a broken wasteland that was ablaze with the remains of both human and alien combatants, as well as the wrecks of fallen ships. Relith's once green plains had turned into a cemetery. The sky was scarred, and ash rained down, covering everything in dark sorrow. Through the destruction, Captain Marcus Vale moved like a shadow, his exosuit armor still in working order, despite being charred. He was the lone surviving member of Delta 3 and his unit was gone. That command didn't give a damn. This had been dismissed as a suicide mission by the War Council back on Earth. However, his HUD blinked, a distress signal, as he slipped behind the broken shell of a Kiathari warwalker. Feeble, faint, alien. He changed his direction after just a second's hesitation. He followed the signal to a fallen temple building tucked away on a cliff. Parts of the ancient architecture smoldered from recent plasma fire, while vines slithered over marble columns. As Marcus stepped inside, his boots crunched on broken stone. In the midst of the rubble, she lay crumpled but barely alive. She was definitely not a human. Her beautiful silver-blue hair fanned around her like liquid light, and her skin glistened with an iridescent violet tint. As nanites attempted and failed to mend a wound across her abdomen, it flashed dimly. Her eyes opened and locked into his with pools of brilliant violet. With an accented yet fluid standard voice, she croaked, "Stay back. I will explode instead of being captured." Marcus lifted his hands and lowered his weapon. He declared, "I'm not here to take you. I'm here to help you leave." Her lips curled slightly as her gaze focused. "You're a person. The species responsible for the bombing of our moon fortress," Marcus retorted, crouching next to her. "I'm also the one that just pulled a spike mine out of your leg. Princess, correct? Heiress of House Verelen is what your armor insignia reads. You are valuable because of that. To mine and your people." Startled by his knowledge, she blinked. He went on, "I studied. Now stop talking and allow me to assist you." He carefully raised her. Her type was partially hollow-boned, developed for a homeworld with lower gravity, which is why she was lighter than anticipated. Pain ripped through her, causing her to flinch and then gasp. Marcus froze as she let out a quiet whimper. "I apologize. That was painful." "No," she said in a whisper. I simply didn't anticipate generosity." They managed to escape the temple and enter the jungle while dodging drones and patrols. Marcus had taken refuge in a wrecked shuttle cabin by dark. He discovered that the princess's name was Sarilith, and she lay with her body shivering, wrapped in a thermal blanket. She looked into the flickering heat lamp and said bluntly, "You should have left me. You would have perished. I was supposed to. Stop talking like that." She gazed at him with a sort of tired
amazement. "Human, you are weird. You saved me, yet you smell like violence. Your kind were referred to as monsters by my people. However, you treated me as though I were delicate." Marcus tightened his grip on a protein bar as he peered down. "Today, I lost everyone. Companions. My brothers. All I had left worth saving was you." After that, she remained silent for some time. Then, quietly, "You now own my body." Marcus nearly choked. "What?" Wincing, she slowly sat up. "Life debt is sacrosanct to my species. My last breath was just seconds away thanks to you. I owe you everything, including my body, my bloodline, and my strength." Marcus mumbled as he ran a hand through his soot-streaked hair, "That's not how we do things. You owe me nothing at all. Simply remain alive." Her head was cocked. "So, how should I spend this new life that you have given me?" He stared at her for a while. "Perhaps. Make a change with it. Stop the cycle. Avoid going back to war. I will then remain with you." They scavenged supplies and went surreptitiously over dangerous terrain over the course of the following week, constantly avoiding sensors. As she recovered, Sarilith evolved from a mission target to more than that. She walked with Marcus despite having the ability to notify her own people for help since she was fiercely clever, curious, and unwaveringly loyal. Once, while they were traversing a river gorge, he said, "Why don't you call them your folks? They would rush in. Because you would be taken and questioned. Maybe dissected." He gave a snort. Good. Her hand touched his wrist. Because I don't want to part from you. The quiet between them was as thick as the humid air from the other planet. He did not retreat. She sat next to him at the fire that night while stars blinked through the canopy. I've made a decision, she declared. What was chosen? The initial days were spent surviving. She remained silent. Only clustered in corners. The lights made her wince. She growled at her own image. Mason refrained from pushing. In order to create protein gel that was compatible with Kirellian biology, he rerouted food processors, lowered the ship's temperature, and turned down the lights. From the viewing port, he spent hours watching her gaze at the stars. At last, one evening, her voice broke the stillness. Nayara. He pivoted. Is that your name? She gave a nod. He grinned. Nice. Bewildered, she blinked. Nice? It means lovely. Unique. Behind her lifeless eyes, something glistened. Weeks went by. She started to assist, clumsily at first but eagerly. She posed inquiries. Her soft, sweet voice came back. She learned how to fly in low orbit from him. She showed him how to use ancient Kirellian constellations to interpret star maps. On one occasion, she chuckled when green paste exploded across the ceiling from the food processor. Mason had not heard such a lovely sound in years. She discovered a picture stuck under the communication panel one night while cruising the Tiran's Reach asteroid belt. A human woman. Grinning. Clutching a young toddler. Your partner, she inquired. Mason studied it for a while. Once was. During the collapse, she passed away. Nayara made contact with the frame's edge. You're by yourself. He remarked, so were you. She gave a nod. Up until now. His voice was low as he turned to her. Are you, still by yourself? She paused. Not when I'm with you, he said quietly. Slowly, like gravity on a dead moon, the transformation occurred. She started singing, old Kirellian lullabies that reverberated throughout his ship. She got off the cold floor where she had been sleeping. She just lay next to him one night. She muttered, I feel safe here. He extended his arm to grasp her hand. Remain. She started crying. There is nowhere else for me. Peace in the sky, however, was short-lived. Word got out that a Kirellian royal was still alive. At one time, the Kirellians were as powerful as empires. It was invaluable to have even one genetic heir left. There was a bounty. 10,000 credits. Alive. When 3 mercenary spacecraft attempted to drag Mason down after tracking his ship through a cloud of gas, he learned the hard way. He didn't flee. He struggled. And Nayara was by his side as they broke through the hull. Donning armor that they had recovered from a wreck. Holding the same fragment of metal that she had previously used to stay alive. I'm not scared, she assured him. He grinned, panting and gasping for air. I'm not either. They pretended to be dead. Mason set a shuttle to detonate while in orbit. After renaming the second chance to the Forever Drift, they disappeared, sank into the darkness of peripheral systems. A moon was discovered. A place that is dead. Mason, though, was sick of running. So he made a patch of it terraform. Grew food using hydroponics. Transformed down satellites into shelters and shields. The shimmering moss that Nayara grew illuminated their little dome with gentle shades of blue and pink. She approached him with a sealed pod one evening as the stars bled orange through the glass. Our kid, she muttered. Mason gaped in disbelief. Are you certain? Grinning, she nodded. It's a component of who I am. And a portion of you. He treated the pod as though it were holy. And started crying. Years went by. The dome expanded. They added a library, a stargazing deck, and a tiny reactor. Mason fixed an antique piano from a cruise liner that had gone down. Nayara used human hands to paint depictions of birds, stars, and flowing trees from Kirellian mythology inside the dome. In the silence of a rising sun, their half-Kirellian, ha.
The blade trembled ever so slightly in her grasp as it hovered inches from his throat. It did not shake out of terror. It was a sense of expectation. Fury. It was genetically passed down for centuries and bred into her bones. After all, she was Emberin, made to be perfect, ruthless, and effective. "Human, any final words?" she inquired icily. With blood drying over his jawline, the guy shackled to the durasteel pillar lifted his damaged face. He forced a crooked smile despite the split lip and the deepening bruise across his cheek. "Yes," he answered in a harsh voice. "You're holding it incorrectly." Kalith blinked. She hesitated for 1 second. Just one. The alien blade she was holding, a weapon engraved with antiquated circuitry and humming with low, menacing pulses, hung in midair. She growled, "You're making fun of me." "I wish," said the human. "But really, you're not holding on. Instead of using your hips to compensate, you're using your shoulder. The purpose of that edge is to flex with the blow. Instead of flowing with the weapon, you're battling it." She yelled, "I've been trained to use the Anthelion edge since birth." He cocked his head. "Then your training was incorrect." The quiet in the room became tense. A slight buzz of shipboard energy filled the Ravager's Mercy's command chamber around them. Unsure whether to step in, or just take in the spectacle, a few of Kalith's best guard observed from the perimeter. Kalith pushed the sword forward till the human's flesh was kissed. His throat had a narrow line of red. He didn't recoil. Rather, he studied her with his eyes fixed on hers, examining her, as if she were the defendant. He whispered, "Why haven't you killed me?" She didn't respond. She was unaware. Most people only knew him by the term ghost, which was whispered across the shadowy regions of space, but his real name was Ryan Vex. He was described in the records as a smuggler, a former soldier, and a drifter. However, others who had met him talked about something more, something inhuman, something that could not be killed. Kalith hadn't believed the stories. So far, he shouldn't have made it through the Dekar 4 ambush. He shouldn't have been able to get away from the Ravager's Mercy's neural suppression field. And he most certainly shouldn't be that composed, bound and bleeding in front of her just before he dies. She gazed at him. He tilted his head casually, as though he was genuinely interested in her skill. Like he wasn't going to die. Her gaze flickered, and he saw it. "I understand your thoughts," Ryan remarked. "You're curious as to why I don't feel scared. Why I smile in the face of death." He gave the blade a nod. "It's because I've passed away already. Once, perhaps twice, and you would be aware of that if your records were important." Kalith's hold became more firm. "You're not unique. You are merely another artifact from the disastrous battle on Earth, a leftover," Reen remarked. "Funny. You believe that the conflict is over. That's adorable." She cut. He ducked. Or more accurately, he moved, in a manner that shouldn't have been feasible. The chains broke. The sword fell to the ground with a bang. The force spread through the chamber like a shockwave. Ryan rushed forward, pushed her against the wall, and grabbed the falling sword in one hand in a single action. He muttered, his breath warm against her cheek. "Like I said, you're holding it incorrectly." The guards yelled, "Weapons up!" With a growl, Caliph pushed him away and slid away, grabbing her sidearm in the process. However, Ryan had already vanished. No sound, no thermal signature, no trace, only a rumble in the atmosphere. They shouted, "He's breached containment. Keep the command deck locked. Activate the internal sensors. Commander, I'm offline already." Heart thumping, Caliph stood. He fell away. Not concealed, not shrouded. Simply gone. Similar to the tales they had rejected. Ghost wasn't a man. He was a message. Caliph went over the security logs a few hours later. Not moving. Loops. Glitched video of her guards firing at nothing while backing away. Additionally, there was just one frame in which Ryan muttered the words, "You need to wake up," while staring at the camera. It wasn't sabotage. It served as a warning. That night, Caliph didn't sleep. She researched. She searched the scant information the Emberan Empire had about him. There was more than battlefield gossip and combat documents. Files that were categorized were present. The transmissions were intercepted. Project EIDOLON is mentioned. Buried beneath the debris of the planet's final military records, this human augmentation project was long believed to be a hoax. Not all he was a soldier. He was created. It was 3 weeks late. It was 3 weeks later. The Empire of Emberan consolidated its hold. In the border systems, rumors of revolt began to circulate. The responsibility of finding the instigator fell to Caliph. She found a mining camp on Targan's Reach thanks to her intelligence. A barren place, hardly able to function, with dust storms capable of tearing flesh from bone. A peculiar signal in ancient Earth dialects was repeated by the outpost's beacons. Hold the blade right. Then it happened again, and did it again. The storm hit her landing. Through the shattered spires, the wind howled like banshees. Miners gathered in groups, silently and wide-eyed, watching her approach. A young girl, perhaps 10 years old, came up and raised a stick. She said, "Is this right?" The stick was taken by Caliph. Instinctively, her hand adjusted, lowered the wrist, balanced the weight. The girl grinned. "That's what the ghost said." Caliph sat by herself in her ship that night, repeatedly spinning the Anthelian blade in her hands. Her heartbeat was in sync with its buzz. Ryan was on her mind, his odd composure, his disappearance, his remarks. What did he mean when he said, "Wake up"? Was it a metaphor? Alert? Or something more profound? Something ingrained in Emberan doctrine that she had never thought to question? The console sent a ping, an encrypted, almost unintelligible message. 6 filters were applied by her. One line appeared, "You have a chance to live because of him." Caliph resigned and went back to Imperial space. An answer was required by the Empress herself. Caliph remained silent. She disappeared into the outer systems, leaving behind her armor and insignia. She followed the echoes there. They took her to an abandoned ship that was partially submerged in an asteroid field. She discovered him there once more. Ryan. Older. Weary. But with a smile on my face. "You located me," he remarked. "I didn't look," she said. "I was gaining knowledge." He arched an eyebrow. "And?" Caliph pulled out the blade of the Anthelian, kept it going. He moved forward and examined her hand. Nodded. He whispered, "You're holding it right now." They then entered the stars together. Slowly, their movement increased. Silently recruiting, Caliph and Ryan rekindled Earth-loyal colonies, freed former comrades, and blocked Emberan supply lines. They taught others how to look as well as how to fight, the way to ask questions, methods for waking up. she became into more than just a fighter. She turned into a representation, evidence that even Emberan perfection is subject to change. As they set up camp on a wrecked freighter over Ventros 9 late one evening, Calith inquired, "Why me?" Ryan kept his eyes on his diagnostics. "Because you were hesitant. I became weak because of that." "No," he replied. "You became human because of that." They stood together in front of the Great Archive, the Empire's memory center, and an unfallen stronghold during the last days of the Emberan era. The truth was inside. The actual past. Recordings of the Holocaust on Earth. Every Emberan creed contains lies. Commander Tavarik, Calith's erstwhile tutor, was watching over it. The Tavarik snarled, "You embarrass yourself." "And for what purpose?" "A myth?" The Enthelion blade was in Calith's hand, not shuddering. Without hesitation, completely still, she remarked, "I used to believe in you." Tavarik made a lunge. She moved out of the way. Like lightning, the sword moved. Silently and with pride, Rian watched as she put the blade to her mentor's throat and disarmed him. "Any final remarks?" she inquired. Tavarik scoffed. Stepping next to her, Rian whispered in her ear, "He is holding it incorrectly." Calith grinned. She then brought the blade down. He didn't have to be killed. The power of the truth was greater. According to legend, the Emberan Empire collapsed within a few weeks after the broadcast from the archive. According to some, the first peace crops were planted on New Earth using a plowshare made from the melted blade that Calith used. She still carries it, according to others. She will also explain to you why she fights. Because I once learned how to hold it correctly from someone.